In today's Path and Presence podcast, I have a very interesting guest with me today. I'm with Justin Ellery, who is hailing over from the team at Biconomy, and Biconomy is doing something very interesting. Obviously, you guys have been hearing a lot now on the podcast when it comes to Web3, the metaverse, and all the types of variations. We were deep diving a little bit into what growth marketing could look like there. Today, we want to talk about experiences. So we want to learn how to make that experience frictionless. And we got Justin here to tell us all about Biconomy. And also, well, obviously, he is a marketer thinking about growth for the team. So welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Of course. So maybe Justin, give us a quick overview for everybody who hasn't heard about Biconomy yet. What are you guys doing sort of in your own words in a 360 overview?
Yeah, sure. So at Biconomy, we build APIs and SDKs that transform the Web3 decentralized app user experience. How we do that is through two products predominantly, Gasless and Hyphen. Gasless allows dApps to sponsor gas fee payments on behalf of their end users, so removing the gas fee payment for users within dApps. And Hyphen allows cross-chain transfers in the form of a bridge, either built directly within their dApp that they can integrate or through the bridge itself on our own platform.
Okay. Okay, so a lot of marketers are listening in, so they're wrapping their head around a little bit what you guys are doing, probably, including myself. So who do you serve? Like, who's coming to you guys and says, we need you guys, and what use cases do they apply to, and what problems do they solve?
Yeah, so predominantly we are working with decentralized apps or dApp developers. That's predominantly who our audience is. And so the use cases and the verticals that exist within that audience vary quite greatly. It can be, gaming within the metaverse. It can be NFT platforms. It can be decentralized exchanges. Really anything that's considered Web3 or on blockchain is relevant to ourselves. And really what we do is we communicate with developers to help them improve their user experience through our core products. Really the end benefit to them is that it increases growth and retention for them as well. The main reason being that ultimately they want to create a simplified user experience and remove kind of some of the complexities that come with crypto and with blockchain technology as it is currently.
So which type of, let's say, jobs to be done, or which types of tasks would you take on in their applications, as an example?
Yeah, so the main one right now is if they were to integrate our Gasless SDK, what that does is if you were to interact with say, a gaming platform on blockchain, our SDK would remove the gas fee portion of the transaction that you would then do if you were to, say, purchase an NFT through that platform, or if you were to compete in a virtual racing scenario, as some games do. So essentially, we're removing the gas fee component of it for end users in that use case.
Yep. Okay. That sounds very lucrative for people to use it to actually saving on gas fees. Very good. So now maybe tell us a little bit about sort of the types of dApps that you're getting in your technology. How do they learn about Biconomy? Like, what's it's a new emerging space. Probably maybe even a lot of folks don't even know that something like your solution even exists for them to be available. How do they learn about Biconomy?
Yeah, so we've had tremendous growth in 2020 and through 2021. A lot of that came organically through inbound funnels. We have a vast partner network and referral network as well. So we do get a lot of kind of inbound leads that way. We do put a really strong emphasis on content as well, though. We are constantly evaluating use cases and putting out case studies that are relevant to kind of what's happening in the space at that time. And so our engagement rate is quite high on that front. And that's led to a lot of kind of user and brand awareness for Biconomy. And now we're at a point where we are really starting to kind of build out a lot of the outbound funnels with the sales team, some outbound marketing efforts, and some more growth-oriented strategies.
Very cool. Now, what role do you think the website plays? Then, because your Web3 product, the channels typically vary when we talk about Web3 quite a bit. There's a lot of the stuff happening in Discords and the likes. How do you think about the website? What role does it still play for a marketer for a product like yours?
Yeah, so the website really is kind of our single source of truth, right? So if you want to learn everything about Biconomy, you can find case studies there. You can find some of our partners, links to really everything that we're doing in one centralized place. In addition to that, we also, of course, have our blog there, and we're starting to add different kind of media files there as well. So it really will serve and has served as really this library of what Biconomy is and who we really want to work with moving forward.
I mean, a lot of marketers that we have on the show, they're always very critical with their website, right? There's always something to prove, something to change. What do you say would be sort of a major strength of the current Biconomy page versus where do you see, room for further improvement, or where do you see things developing towards for the page?
Yeah, so up until now, we've put quite a strong emphasis on design. We overhauled our brand in 2020, and now we're at a point where we're really starting to refine a lot of our core messaging and our value props within the website. So we're creating new landing pages, and we're really trying to simplify kind of the copy that we're using so that it's very clear and concise. And I would say that's really what we're focused on right now, is taking this very, very technical concept and whittling it down to a point that kind of everyday developers and everyday users can really understand and see the value in.
Yeah, that's, I mean, it's definitely a challenge when you say that already everyday developers need to be able to understand it. So there is a second layer of a challenge. Very often marketers try to get it just to the layman, but you have to, get it to the developers. Very cool. I see. Is there something that you as a marketer maybe have learned over the years when it comes to actually converting? Like, because on the page, on your page, they can get into the dashboard. Obviously, they can explore that a little bit. What have you learned over the years when it comes to actually communicating the message and then converting people into starting to use the products? Is there any tools, any methods, any approaches that you figured are quite helpful for that?
Yeah, so for myself, I've always been a really big fan of case studies, and we use those at Biconomy very, very often, and we use them very strategically, where we directly analyze who our ideal customer profiles are, and then the case or the use cases that they exist within, and then we build case studies out around those, provided that we have a client that will match it. If not, then we go find one. What that does is it really kind of establishes this credibility and this trust, right? Where it's when we're doing lead generation or we're doing content or really any level of marketing, it's, hey, like, we can really help you do this for your business, or we can help you build out this component of retention in your DAP because we've done it before and we have the kind of the proof behind us. Mm-hmm. And so when it comes to things like the website, we're starting to add those content pieces there, and then mapping those with things like Hotjar and using heat mapping to really understand, like, are people engaging with a particular case study more than another, or are they really interested in a certain use case? And if that is so, then we kind of go above and beyond to focus on that one a little bit more, maybe.
Yep. No, I see. That makes a lot of sense. Now, in that regard, right? In your industry, there is, because a lot of marketers we speak to, the topic comes up of the cookieless future, right? People keep bringing up cookies are going to be gone. They're going to be gone out of the browsers, out of Chrome, at least beginning, I think, mid next year. Mm-hmm. Is that something that the marketers in your space, the Web3, already think about? Is it completely on the back burner because you think about different channels anyhow? Like, what role does it play?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So my background is in more traditional tech, very larger Web2 companies, particularly within marketing technology. Mm. And one thing that I will say is when it comes to Web3 and it comes to blockchain, marketing is a completely different beast. The channels are completely different. The touch points are completely different than they would be, say, for like a traditional SaaS company. And so while we are impacted and we are certainly thinking about things like the cookieless future, we're kind of already prepared for that in the sense that we are pushing for a decentralized internet. We are pushing for, data ownership and data privacy. And so these are all things that we've kind of been advocating for, if you will, for like the past 3 to 5 years. And so we welcome it. I mean, we think it's a great thing. And so, yeah, I mean, we're just trying to identify where we fit into that, though, with things like content and things like paid campaigns and stuff.
Yeah, super interesting. Basically, since we talked about growth, we talked about the company, we talked about what you guys are doing, I would love to learn a little bit more about yourself. You mentioned already got a history in sort of a more traditional, SaaS and software marketing background. Where do you personally like to educate yourself now about marketing? Because you're heading into a super interesting, hot, very fast changing market with Web3. Where do you keep on educating yourself as what, a marketer would need to know or need to learn in that space?
Yeah. So my two favorite mediums are really Twitter at this point and podcasts. I would say that from the podcast perspective, I tend to be pretty diversified in what I listen to. I don't like to kind of fall into a bubble, if you will. I think it's really good to, when you're in a space like blockchain, it's really good to kind of hear the other side of it too, and hear some of the skepticism and some of the potential questions that people have at a high level. And so I try to educate myself that way. And the same goes for Twitter. I mean, with Twitter, it's so easy to fall into like an echo chamber where you follow people that are all similar to yourself. And of course, you all have more or less the same opinion on things. And so one piece of advice I would give to other marketers is just diversify your followers on Twitter and really like try and hear the other side of the story, regardless of what it is that you're paying attention to. It'll help you as a marketer. It's helped me tremendously. And at the end of the day, if you can bring those questions back into the company, and it ultimately is a very good thing and a very valuable tool.
It's interesting. I mean, it seems such a simple suggestion, but it's, I think, so fundamental as to what you shape your opinion, like you said, the questions that you bring into the meetings. Very cool. I have a couple of rapid fire questions to wrap it up for today. Are you ready for those?
Sure, let's go.
What is the last book that you read, or the last podcast you listened to, for that matter?
The last book was Sapiens. For I think I read it for like the third or fourth time actually. It's one of my favorite books. Podcast wise, right now I'm really into modern finance, as well as Huberman Lab, which is more of a biology podcast, but I actually think there are kind of some tie-ins there with tech as well.
What's the one single thing that your company is focused on the most at the moment?
Improving user experiences for dApps. This is probably our mission critical right now, is building out SDKs and improving our own software as it is currently to really create like this seamless user experience for people when they use a blockchain or crypto application. We want to get to a point where your parents and your grandparents are using blockchain-based applications in the same way they use Facebook. And they not only know how to use it, they actually enjoy using it. And that's really, we believe that's possible, and we're working towards that very aggressively.
If there would be no boundaries in technology, what would be the one thing you would fix as a role, for your role as a marketer in the Web3 space?
That's very interesting. I think one application of Web3 that has a lot of potential is around kind of social causes, or around things like climate science. I'd love to see some development in that area within blockchain and Web3. I think there's a ton that can be done there. And then as a marketer, I think, I would love to see, I would love to see other marketers become empowered to work on those kind of projects and really kind of go after things they're interested in within this space. There really is no limit as to what we can do with blockchain tech and with Web3. We can make it whatever we want. And so I think there is kind of an accountability or a responsibility aspect to that, to let's improve kind of some of the big stuff that's out there right now.
Very good. And for the very last question, right? If today would be your very first day, you're joining into Biconomy, and so you're stepping into that world, what's the one advice you would give yourself as a marketer?
To zoom out. I would actually give that advice to almost any marketer that's starting a role, or someone who's maybe a little bit earlier in their career. It's very easy to become, laser focused, I think, on launches and kind of the day-to-day updates and things that are happening. But it's very, very important to zoom out and look at the macro environment and understand what's happening in this space today, but what's coming, 6 months, a year, 2 years from now. If you can think in that manner and kind of get ahead of the curve, everything else will tend to fall into place a little bit more easily. And so that's the advice I would give to myself, is really just to zoom out.
Is there any practical sort of advice that you do there? What do you do, like a brainstorm, or do you sort of reflect on, like, do you look into the history of the technology? And like, what do you do to do that stuff?
Yeah. So one of the big things that we do at Biconomy is we have regular brainstorming sessions.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea behind these isn't to talk about things that we're already working on. It's to really kind of throw out these seemingly huge ideas, or like these moonshot ideas of things that maybe will be coming in the space in a year from now, or things that we might want to be thinking about, or just things we're interested in that maybe are feasible or maybe are not. But it's really a safe space, like for us as a team, to get together and just put out a bunch of random ideas and find something if it sticks. And so I would advise everyone to do that. That's in marketing, like especially younger people that are in marketing, or someone who's starting in their career, like really have those brainstorming sessions where any idea is kind of a good idea, and then you can vet backwards and decide what's worth pursuing.
Very cool. Justin, I really appreciate you took the time with us today to be a guest on Pathmark Presents. I want to give you the very last word. If somebody would be forgetting all about Biconomy that we discussed today, what's the one thing they should remember?
That we are building SDKs to make crypto and blockchain accessible to absolutely everybody. And that is really our mission critical. That's what we're doing at Biconomy.
Thanks a lot for being a guest on Pathmark Presents.
Thank you.